Hello, Literates. I am Britt Riderly. Welcome back to Writer's Ambition. For those of you who've been hanging in since episode 1, use a real one. And for those of you who are just finding my humble channel, welcome. We hope you stay a while. Okay, so we are in March. It is the March HonesTEA, where we're pretending that this is tea, because this is what I need right now. Although there is a full picture of very cherry in my refrigerator, because I'm a what? Creature of habit. Amen. So, at the end of a long day, let's talk about these writing goals. I have done well, if I do say so myself. So, also, side note, I hurt my wrist again. Do y'all remember when I was up here, like, hobbled from my hands when I was wearing both of these braces? The braces are back. I'm just not wearing them right now. I've been wearing them all day. But I hurt myself by overwriting, you ask? Nothing so gangster. I hurt myself doing yoga. We'll leave it right there. February HonesTEA goals. Let's recap. We're to accept sliding goals, to finish Tales of Eliza Black first draft. That's going to be a sliding goal, recall. And then 3, to take a break on my YA world building. And then 4, to start chapter 1 of my dissertation. Okay. I'm at peace. Like, I didn't backslide into being like, no, I need to finish a lot. No, I am still accepting sliding goals. I'm very happy with where I am. We'll get to that in a second. I am on a mostly break with the YA world building. And then I did start chapter 1 of my dissertation. So usually I'm tired. Usually, I start with like my previous month goals, and then I'll talk about my current month goals, and then I'll talk about my you did that, but I'm going to invert that a little bit. So my February month goals, I'm going to talk about my you did that, because it'll just make more sense for this particular one to start with what I did and then go into my March goals. So my you did that. I finished part 1 of Tales of Eliza Black. Yeah, I'm super excited about that, because last month, one of my you did that was that I busted through a structural block for Tales of Eliza Black, and I was still in the middle of working out where that was going to lead, and it led to great places, friends. It led to great places. So I finished, I'm a lady. I finished part 1 of Tales of Eliza Black. I went through that structural revision. And I'm currently continuing to now I'm going through part 1 of the novel and revising. But let's talk about what I did. I finished part 1. You did that. Amen. I completed my first incidental of the YA fantasy. So I was going to take a break on that, and I was, but then scenes kept floating through my mind, you all. So instead of giving in to the spirits of pantsing, did I do that? No! I just decided to write a little bitty scene. Scene this big, really tiny, a baby scene. And I devised I'm a Virgo, so we always have to have a plan for everything. I devised a plan for me to honor the scenes that were floating through my head without falling back into the spirit of pantsing, because I'm trying really hard to plan this revision instead of pantsing this revision, so I don't make this number 5 be what all the other ones have been, which is better in a way that the last one wasn't, but still ultimately having a lot of different holes and white space and that sort of thing. So rather than just starting writing the book, I decided to start a series of incidentals where it's little scenes that let me work through things that continue to come back to my mind. So for instance, one of the things that's going to happen in this revision of my fantasy, which I think I've said the name of it several times, but I don't know, I keep seeing people not say the name of their manuscript, and maybe that's because 1, it could change, and mine has changed several times, or 2, they're like, it's so bomb, I don't want you to know. Either way, I'm gonna do it. So henceforth, And forthwith, my YA fantasy should be referred to as hashtag first fantasy. Amen? Amen. Hashtag first fantasy. So, hashtag first fantasy. I've been working on the revision of that through world building. Last month I said I was going to pause in that, and I did. But then, like I said, the spirit of pantsing tried to come for my soul, per usual. I rebuked it, sort of. It kept returning to me. So I decided to do these incidentals, where one of the things that I was supposed to be working on in the revision was maybe redefining some relationships. And I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I live beneath a crew of ogres. So if you can hear that, please excuse me and the trials of apartment living. Okay, onward. So, redefining relationships. So I was trying to redefine some relationships. And one in particular between two characters who before were best friends and now are sisters. I wrote a scene, a really quick incidental that really helped me start to figure how that would change the relationship and how that would affect each of their character motivations. Wrote it. It was a nice little scene. My CP was like, oh, this is good. I'm intrigued. So I'm like, this is a winner. So that's how I'm going to be revising hashtag first fantasy from now on. I'm not writing anything for it because some of these incidentals might be referenced in the manuscript, but some of them won't at all. It's just to help me think through some things that are on my mind anyway without starting me on writing the manuscript itself. So, for instance, that scene that I wrote was 5 pages. It's not going to be in the manuscript in full. It's like a background scene for me to think about the background of the characters. Some of it may be referenced, but not all of it. So the incidentals are a way for me to be able to do some writing on it without having to worry that I'm falling back into pantsing. So that went well, and I'm proud of myself for compromising. I didn't start writing, but I did allow myself to do some writing for the project, and that just felt really good because I would hate for me to forget all of these great ideas when I do start writing. So this gives me a way to capture them. And then the third you did that is I realized after I fixed that structural problem last month in Tales of Eliza Black, which there's no point in me hashtagging that I'm making a different title because that's been on my channel before, so y'all already know Eliza and the Motley Crew. I realized after I fixed that internal story structure issue that externally, there was another that I was trying to put Eliza into a 3-act structure, and I don't think that Tales of Eliza Black is a 3-act story. And so I started looking at alternatives to the 3-act structure because it really felt like I was imposing a structure on her story, and I want it to be tight. I want the pacing to be right. I want character motivation and all those things to be apparent, but I don't think the 3-act structure was getting me where I needed to go with it. So luckily, oh my wrist, that action right there was just calm down. JL and what is her name? I just threw away my little sticky note that had her name on it. Alex. They were having an Instagram live discussion, and I came in at the very end. And one of them mentioned something about craft, and I had asked hey, are there any alternatives to 3-act structure craft books that you would recommend? And she gave me The Anatomy of Story by John Trudy. So I ordered it promptly. And I also just Googled it, and there's another one about the nesting dolls structure. So I'm looking into different story structures. We have segued into my goals for March, by the way, follow along. So one of the goals is to I'm already working on a revision of part 1, like I said earlier, but I'm looking at that revision, looking at are there any places where I let the 3-act structure overdetermine my story, and how can I resolve that by using these more dynamic, perhaps, story structure. So that's the goal of March. I'm already starting that. I also had a goal in February to like start my chapter 1 of my dissertation, and I did. I'm on page 13, I think, and I'm aiming for like 25 to 30 pages for chapter 1. Going real well. Going real well. So happy about that. And then work up hashtag first fantasy incidentals. Still working on it. I finished the first one that went really well. I'm working on the second one that's a bit longer. It's another sort of reconfiguration / backstory of a relationship that's changing. The relationship between the two characters isn't changing. It's a love interest and they're still a love interest, but they used to both be in this world, and now the female love interest is not from here anymore. She used to be. Now she's from the fantasy world. So that one is longer. That one is it's like up to 10 pages already, and I'm like, wait, they haven't even met yet. What's happening? But that's the good thing about it being an incidental. All of it is not going to be parts of this may be, but all of it aren't going to be in the manuscript. So I get to like, I feel like I'm doing Google Earth. I feel like I'm doing Google Earth of my fantasy place, where I'm like moving this character around as an avatar, and through her I'm discovering like, okay, what is the plant life like? What is the sea, like fish and wildlife like? How are power politics discussed? Did she take it seriously? Like, I'm getting to explore those sorts of things without the pressure of it needing to be cute and clean and, you know, succinct, because most of that is not going to end up in the book. So that's the goal, is to continue to work on such incidentals when I feel like it, with no pressure. And that's going well so far. And then the third one is to read The Anatomy of Story by John Trudy. That'll be here on Friday. So I will. All right. Those are my goals. That was I feel like it was all over the place today, but it's been a long day and I'm hopped up on coffee and donuts. I literally only had 5 donut holes and I'm still like high off of it. A little bit. High off donuts, drunk off sleep. I'm crossfaded. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far in the video, comment crossfaded. Comment crossfaded. And I will see y'all in the next one.